My mom, a big shareholder, passed away. My BIL said the share in the $30 million inheritance are ours. The phone rang, shattering the peaceful afternoon. My wife Ella rose from her seat on the terrace, her face illuminated by the warm sunlight. As she answered, the caller's voice seemed to drain the color from her face. Her voice trembled as she responded, revealing a distress I couldn't decipher. I stood up, my heart pounding, but the call ended abruptly. "Your mother," Ella said, her voice choked with emotion. "She passed away." We knew she didn't have much time left, but the reality of her passing hit us like a wave. Mom had been in the hospital for months. I couldn't remember the last time we had a real conversation. Lately she had rarely regained consciousness, and the doctors had warned us to be prepared. 6 months ago, she had been diagnosed and hospitalized. Ella and I had been taking care of her, but it wasn't enough. Mom had lost her husband early and raised me on her own. I was her only child, her sole support. I wished I had been a better son, that I had talked to her more, shared more of my life with her. A wave of sadness and regret washed over me, but the image of Mom's face in my mind was always smiling. When I was a weak child coming home from school after being bullied, my strong-willed mother would angrily march to that child's house. She was the opposite of me, someone who disliked conflict. Seeing me, she would laugh and say, "You're just like your father." My mother's strength saved me countless times. Even after becoming an adult, I could never truly stand up to her. She was strong and strict, but she raised me with immense love. Now, with my own family, I understood how incredibly hard that must have been for her, a single mother. I had one older sister, Allison, but she had left home a long time ago. We had been out of touch for years, but I had to contact her to inform her of Mom's passing. After the hectic days of preparing for the funeral, I was at home. Relatives had come to offer condolences, and Jack, Mom's lawyer, who had taken care of her legal affairs, had also arrived. We were about to discuss the will when the doorbell rang. Ella went to answer, but before she could open the door, a rough voice shouted, "Hello," followed by the sound of heavy, unceremonious footsteps. "Oh, I see everyone is here," a man said, walking into the living room. "Having a discussion about the inheritance without me, Gavin." I couldn't hide my surprise at the sudden appearance of my brother-in-law. He sat heavily on the nearby sofa as if it were his own home. Behind him, Allison peeked out hesitantly. "It's been a while, Levy," she said, her voice barely a whisper. I hadn't seen my sister in over 10 years. She no longer resembled her former self. She used to have a gentle, bright smile, but now her eyes were lifeless and her complexion was pale. Seeing her, looking much older than her actual age, left me feeling unsettled. "Sis, you came. Thanks for letting me know. Sorry I couldn't make it to the funeral," she said, looking down apologetically. There were many things I wanted to ask her, but after not seeing each other for 10 years, the words just wouldn't come out. "Still, it's a shame about your mother, huh?" Gavin said, his voice laced with a sleazy grin. "She saved up quite a bit of money before she passed away, and those stocks must have done pretty well too, right?" "Darling, you shouldn't say such a thing," Allison scolded him. He glared at her and retorted, "Huh. What's the problem? It's the truth, isn't it? You didn't even do anything for her. It's really pitiful." "That's because you..." Allison seemed ready to argue back, but she quickly fell silent. Seeing her like that, Gavin snickered and said, "Here, there's her photograph. Why don't you go speak to her, apologize for being such an ungrateful daughter?" Allison, biting her lip as if holding back something, sat down in front of our mother's photograph. Mom came from a wealthy family. When she married my father, her parents opposed it, leading to an almost complete estrangement. Even after my father passed away, she refused any financial aid from her family, raising us on her own strength. But when her parents passed away, a massive inheritance came to her as their only daughter. Stocks and cash together amounted to $10 million. She used to say that she didn't need it, I said, my voice filled with a bittersweet memory. But I told her that it would be useful, that she should use it for herself. I was already married and supporting myself, and Allison had left home a long time ago. Allison, Mom always worried about my sister. Even though she had been married for quite some time, we kept in touch initially, but for the past few years, there's been no word from her. She didn't even show up for the holidays. "If anything happens to me, look after Allison. You two should help each other out." Gavin let out a dramatic sigh. How long were you going to stay lost in thought? He had no intention of paying his respects himself, lounging comfortably on the sofa. "Gavin, why are you acting like that?" Ella, losing her patience, spoke up to Gavin. Maybe she had been holding back her anger at his attitude all this time. "What, you think you can talk to me like that? You should treat me more politely." Even though he was my brother-in-law, he was younger than me. Ella, with a furrowed brow, seemed like she had more to say. Well, whatever. Aren't all the relatives here? Gavin looked around at all of us and started to speak. The stocks in Miss Collins' $10 million inheritance will go to my wife, the eldest daughter. I couldn't believe my ears. Darling. Allison stood up and faced Gavin. What? You have the right to receive it, don't you? Your mother would be happy too. She helped us out with our debts before, didn't she? That was not what we agreed to, Ella said, her voice firm. You said the last time was the final time you'd ask for money. She has plenty, so it's okay to take a bit, isn't it? That old woman doesn't have any use for money now anyway. Hearing him talk about my mother like that, I couldn't help but grimace. Allison, looking like she was about to cry, shouted, Stop it. I don't deserve a single penny. That's what she says, Gavin said with a sleazy grin. But the eldest daughter has the right to inherit, doesn't she, Mr. Lawyer? Well, usually when a parent passes away, the siblings inherit, Jack said, his voice calm and measured. See, you, the eldest daughter, must inherit. Just take it gratefully. It's $10 million. $10 million? Gavin laughed crudely. However, that isn't a typical case, Jack continued. In Miss Collins' case, it's a bit different, isn't that right, Levy? Yes, Gavin, I said, clearing my throat. I should have introduced him earlier. This is Jack, the executor of my mother's will. Executor of the will. Gavin looked puzzled, alternating his gaze between me and Jack. During her lifetime, my mother had made a request to me, am I correct? Yes, Jack said. I'm responsible for executing the contents of her will. What does the will say? Does it mention not allowing the eldest daughter to inherit? Gavin smirked, his voice laced with a hint of suspicion. Well, yes, Jack said, his voice steady. She has been disinherited. So that's what it means. Seeing Gavin's dumbfounded expression, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Following suit, the other relatives in the room started laughing too. What does that mean? How is that possible? Gavin pressed Jack for answers, his voice rising in panic. Disinheritance is a process where if a presumptive heir has committed significant misconduct, the right to inherit is revoked, Jack explained. Revoked? Gavin looked at Jack, his face pale. Oh, that's unfortunate. By the way, my wife seized the moment, speaking to Gavin with a playful expression. When someone is disinherited, they are also ineligible to receive the minimum inheritance share. Watching this, the relatives all burst into laughter again. Hey, did you know about this? Gavin approached Allison, shouting at her. I didn't know, Allison said, her voice barely a whisper. I haven't been in touch for a long time. No way, this is impossible. During her lifetime, the deceased paid off a large debt for you, correct? Jack said, his voice calm and unwavering. Gavin's eyes started to dart around the room. That was. She did it on her own. What, you were the one who forced her? Shut up, Gavin's shout made Allison flinch. Damn it. You tricked me, I only married you because you said your family was rich. What? Allison's voice was filled with shock and disbelief. How dare you say that? Gavin's anger was entirely directed at her. Damn it, everyone's making a fool of me. He kicked a chair violently, and Allison, startled, shrank even further. Seeing her like that, I remembered my mother's words. I had to do what needed to be done. I had to convey my mother's feelings to her properly. Allison, I placed a hand on her shoulder. She seemed so much smaller than the last time I saw her. Mom always told us to help each other as siblings. I first heard about disinheriting Allison when Mom was hospitalized. I was surprised and asked why. There was something troubling her, Mom said, her voice filled with concern. When she heard about Allison's large debt, she noticed her behavior was strange. Of course, the very fact that Allison got into debt, given her serious nature, was a family crisis. But she never asked for a reason. She just took over the debt without questioning it. However, Allison then went out of contact. No matter how I tried to reach out, I couldn't get through. The same was true for the contacts you had. Mom was always worried, thinking something might have happened to Allison, I said, my voice filled with a mixture of sadness and understanding. You two never took after me, Mom said, looking at me with gentle eyes. Do you remember when Allison was in elementary school? She usually came straight home, but one day she was late. We got worried and went looking for her together. We found her alone in a dark park, crying because a cat wouldn't get off her lap. When I asked why she didn't just move the cat, she said because it would wake it up. I was completely taken aback. She wouldn't eat dinner, just waiting for the cat to wake up. If it were me, I'd have moved it, no matter what. I couldn't believe it. Mom laughed at the memory, I said, a smile tugging at my lips. but then quickly became thoughtful. She is too kind. It seemed that this was the root of Mom's worries. Is she not getting along with her husband well? As long as she is happy with him, it's fine. But if she's forcing herself, Mom seemed to have something in mind. If all he wants is money, he will surely come for my inheritance. He'll say she has the right to inherit as the eldest daughter. Do you think Gavin will do such a thing? So you're going to disinherit her, won't my sister be shocked? That's what I said at the time, but it turned out exactly as Mom predicted. Mothers truly are incredible. Tell her this after I'm gone. Mom spoke with a determined look. I want to help Allison. Will she understand just from that? She's a smart girl, I said. She'll get it. You two must help each other. I'm counting on you, Livy. I agreed with Mom's wishes, and that brings us to today. When Allison finished listening to my story, she covered her face with her hands. Mother, she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. She was always worried about you. Allison knelt in front of Mom's photograph and cried. But Gavin, having heard our conversation, was trembling with rage. Help each other out as siblings, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm, without giving a single cent. If she wanted to help, she should have given us money. No, you're wrong. Allison's expression had changed from earlier. She faced Gavin with a resolute attitude. What, you're the eldest daughter and can't even inherit? Aren't you upset? Everything's going to your brother. Yes, she said, her voice firm. I don't need the inheritance. I couldn't do anything for Mother. Jack, she turned to Mom's lawyer. I have nothing to say about the inheritance. I just have one request. What is it? Jack asked, his voice calm and professional. I would like to discuss the process of getting a divorce, Allison said, her voice clear and determined. What are you talking about? Gavin was agitated by Allison's sudden words. I should have decided firmly when Mother helped us with the debt. I no longer have any inheritance to claim. If all you wanted was money, please divorce me. You, Gavin pressed her angrily. How much have I taken care of you all this time? But Allison responded calmly. Thank you for everything until now. With her head bowed, Allison made a momentous decision. She was met with Gavin's cold gaze. Well, you're right, Gavin said, his voice laced with a bitter edge. If there's no inheritance, there's no point in staying with you. I don't need a penniless old hag. Marrying you was a mistake. Allison continued to look down, not arguing against Gavin's insults. Jack, observing this, spoke up. Miss Allison, about the divorce consultation, does your husband often exhibit such violent behavior? Violent? I'm not sure if that's the right word. Allison said, looking pensive. Does your husband frequently criticize or blame you? Yes, but that's because I can't understand him properly. Allison seemed to defend Gavin, showing a slightly distressed expression. I could clearly see that Gavin was selfishly attacking Allison. It wasn't just me, all the relatives present could see it too. I thought I finally understood why Mom was so worried. If you can't speak to him as an equal, and if you live in fear of your husband's words and actions, that is already considered domestic violence, Jack said, his voice firm and unwavering. Gavin's words made him furious. What violence? You crooked lawyer. Allison looked between the yelling Gavin and Jack, her eyes reflecting a new resolve. Sensing her determination, Jack continued, ignoring Gavin's outburst. This fact has been witnessed by everyone here, including myself. While I won't insist on a recording, it would be helpful if there were a diary or some record detailing the abusive behavior. My diary? Allison said, her voice barely a whisper. Yes, there are days where I wrote everything in detail. I see, Jack said. In that case, we can discuss the details of the divorce mediation later. Could you come to our office for that? He handed her a business card. Thank you, Allison said, her voice filled with gratitude. I appreciate it. She shook Jack's hand as if Gavin no longer existed in her world. Gavin tried to intervene in the discussion between Allison and Jack, but he couldn't stop it. Hey, don't mess with me, Gavin shouted, his voice filled with anger. Everything I did was for you. How can you repay my kindness with betrayal? Allison responded firmly, her voice clear and strong. Please be quiet. I've decided that I won't be intimidated by you anymore. A few months later, Allison's divorce from Gavin was finalized. She had gathered evidence and bravely faced him. If Gavin hadn't agreed to the divorce, it would have taken much longer, but fortunately, he conceded quickly. Allison was left speechless by his straightforward desire for money. So all he wanted was money. Gavin paid alimony to my sister and left the house they had shared. Allison had already moved to another place and would likely never see Gavin again. The last time she saw him was at the mediation where, concerned about the judge's impression, he didn't say anything to her. The once domineering man, now meek as a lamb, left my sister wondering, what was I so afraid of? With this change, I finally found the right moment to tell Allison the truth. It was about a bequest. A bequest allows a non-heir to receive assets. This meant I could share the inheritance I received from Mom with my sister. It was part of Mom's wishes, which she expressed while still alive. I had been waiting for Allison's divorce from Gavin to be finalized. Now, Gavin wouldn't get a single penny, and I could give Mom's inheritance to my sister, a gift to help her start a new life. But I don't deserve this. Allison was shocked and confused by my sudden offer. Mom said to do this. We can't ignore her wishes, right? She wanted us to help each other. When I smiled, Allison's eyes welled up. Thank you, she said, her voice choked with emotion. Then she turned to Mom's photograph and spoke to it. Mother, thank you. I'm sorry for worrying you. I looked at the photo of Mom. Her bright smile seemed to say, I'm glad. Hey, what's up? Thank you for coming, sister. Congratulations on your opening. Today was the grand opening of Allison's Cafe. Ella and I brought a gift to celebrate. The stylish and calm atmosphere of the cafe was already bustling with customers. Allison used part of Mom's inheritance to open this cafe. With her divorce finalized, she decided to pursue the dream she had cherished for so long. Her face was bright and full of life as she served customers. It felt like my old sister was back. This is a great place, I said, taking in the warm, inviting atmosphere. It feels so relaxing. Thank you, oh lady, Allison said, her voice filled with joy. Do you remember that painting? She pointed to a painting framed on the wall. Isn't that the one from Mom's room? It was a painting Allison and I often looked at when we were kids. Mom's favorite. It wasn't very expensive, but Mom always kept it and cherished it. Yeah, it's Mom's favorite painting, I said, a wave of nostalgia washing over me. I decided to display it here. It brings back memories. I think Mom would be happy. As we stood side by side, looking at the painting, I felt like I had traveled back in time to our childhood. I met Allison's eyes as she smiled next to me. My sister no longer had that dark look in her eyes like she did before. Is something wrong? I asked, noticing a slight change in her expression. No, she said, her voice soft. I just thought maybe I should start something new too. Oh, that's a great idea, I said, seeing Allison's face light up with a bright smile. Looking at her spoke to Mom in my heart. It's all going to be okay now. The bell above the door jingled, signaling the arrival of another customer. A refreshing breeze blew through the cafe, carrying with it the scent of freshly brewed coffee and pastries. Allison's cheerful voice filled the air, and I squinted against the dazzling sunlight.